Hello everyone, TLSG here, back again with another daily Marvel Snap video. So we are still continuing to slowly climb. We are at rank 124, and we're fighting for that title in the current event. With just a few days to go, we are trying to conserve as much rank as we can and gain as much to kind of pad our positioning to make sure that we're top 10 after the event ends. And so today's list was created by a user named Xiao, and they named it Control. And the idea behind this list is that you have a couple of ways to out-position and out-power your opponent. You can drop very high-value, high-priority cards onto the board, and then on your last turn, you can shift them in a surprising way, especially with how common Spider-Man has been recently. You can surprise your opponent by shoving your cards over into a different direction, ultimately pushing power where they weren't expecting it, and a lot of times you can swing 4 and 8 cubes out of it. And so I would say that this list is a little bit more difficult to run than a normal list. And if you don't have Titania, that's okay. You can replace it with Sunspot. And on their write-up, they did offer a few other replacements as well. But it is incredibly satisfying to find a list where you're able to utilize Heimdal successfully to swing those big cube games. Because if you're going to get 4 or 8 cubes, that means that your opponent at least thought they had a chance to win enough to stick it out and see the end result. And so if you can surprise them with a Heimdal shift, it is incredibly satisfying. And then we also in this list have a Doc Ock as a way to pull and drain them of some of their key resources. So maybe they're running a discard deck and you pull into their Apocalypse and force them to not be able to have anything for their Dracula to pull into. Maybe they're running a Death Wave and you pull into their Arrow, their Leader, their Death, and then they're left on the last turn with nothing. There are a lot of decisions to make with this deck, and I think among the most difficult of them is one, how do you lay out the board so that you can position your cards effectively to do a Heimdal shift to allow you to find the win? And then the second one is, what card do you drop on turn 5? A Doc Ock into an empty lane is dangerous. It is very scary because you can pull into who knows what resources. Sometimes it's going to take that Hail Mary. Sometimes you would rather use your Doc Ock on a lane that only pulls into 1 or 2 resources instead. That way you can kind of control what you're forcing the opponent to have, and you can more easily cap out those locations. And then other times your Arrow is going to be great at misdirecting their resources. You can reposition the Spider-Man play or the last turn power push by forcing their cards into a direction that they don't want them to go in. But overall, the deck has been incredibly fun. It feels like a fresh idea, something that hasn't been run to the ground in this current meta, and I have really enjoyed it. I hope that you guys do as well. Let's go ahead and jump over into a couple of games. All right, so first up we have Winter, and the first location is Eternity Range, which if we don't win that location, it's okay. In our starting hand, we do have our Doc Ock, we have Thor, we have Shang-Chi to take out any cards that are pulled by Doc Ock that are above 9. We have Arrow to kind of guide some of their cards across the board, depending on what kind of deck they're running. Now, because of the featured location, we've been seeing a lot of kind of Death Wave or just standard Death Wave decks. And so maybe we can outplay them. Maybe we can outposition, especially without getting that featured location. I think we get a lot more upside or a lot more potency than they do. We're going to go ahead and play our Thor onto the board. We probably will shy away from doing a Doc Ock into the raft because we don't want to force them into drawing additional cards. Now, we're going to play both Rock Slide, and actually, I think we're going to hold our Mjolnir for now. That way, next turn, whenever we cap out the raft location and get the free resource, it'll be a little bit more of a kind of surprise. So they do use a Yondu. It destroys our Maximus. They use a Nova, so they will probably cap out this location next turn as well. So I think we are going to go with the Doc Ock. Sometimes we do shy away from using Doc Ock just because we don't really want to pull into too many resources. We want to drain them of some, but a lot of times it is very, very scary to pull into 4 unknown resources. And so I imagine they're going to play 2 cards here, maybe one being a Carnage or a Killmonger. And so once they cap this out and clear up a little bit more of that space, we're going to pull into some additional cards, maybe drain them of their leader, of their additional resources. Oh, so they go with a Wave instead, which I should have seen coming. Very standard for a Death Wave deck. Now, Doc Ock is going to either help us or hurt us here. So the Arrow play comes down, the Death comes down. We are winning in the raft location. They double down on nothing because we pulled everything from them. We took everything from them. And now it really comes down to, what did they top deck? Did they top deck a leader? If so, then we just lose. Otherwise, we can compete with them in most locations. The wave definitely messed up kind of the natural progression, but we also messed up their idea with their double death. So I'm going to play the Giganto into the Eternity range. I think if I'm them and I don't top deck a leader, then I probably play into Grand Central, trying to give myself a little bit of a boost. And so they do play their She-Hulk, expecting 11 power to not be able to be overcome very easily, especially with a deck that runs a Thor, a Rock Slide, and a Doc Ock. So we do get the free resource, we get the support from the Giganto. Not a traditional win, but it is a win that we will take. Let's go ahead and jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Darkness. And the first location is the Raft, so we're probably not going to be playing our Black Widow, because that's going to give them free resources that they can push into the Raft location. Although maybe it would be worthwhile. We could do Black Widow and then Cosmo, Maximus, cap it out with a Doc Ock. But I don't think it's going to be worth it. I don't want to give them any extra chances to cap out the Raft location, because that free resource can be make or break for a game. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to play our Cosmo. That allows us to do a Maximus next turn. On turn 5, we could go Doc Ock, potentially. And so they play a Korg. The good thing about the Raft is that if we don't cap it out and it doesn't look like they're going to, at least until the very end of the game, we can always do a sneaky Heimdal shift. We can pull all their cards in with Doc Ock in the far right lane. Then we can do a Heimdal shift in mid to push those resources. We can't do a Heimdal mid. We can do a Heimdal in, well, I guess we could only do a Heimdal into Wakandan Embassy. So we will take it with a grain of salt. We will see what we can make happen. So they do an Omega Red. Very interesting. So part of me, oh man, part of me wants to cap this location out, and the other part of me does not. I am going to go ahead and cap it out with the Rock Slide and the Titania. That's going to give us a free resource if they cap it out as well. Ooh, yeah, not great. Not great. I was thinking it would be cool with the Galactus, but following up with anything else is just not very reliable. So we do have a very big lead in the Raft location. I don't even see a good play line, honestly. Had the Galactus been anything worthwhile, the best play line that I can think of is to do an Arrow and a Galactus. We would have to hope that we can do. Oh no, we could. Oh no, we have initiative. We could do an Arrow to pull their cards over. We could do a Galactus in Hellfire Club to force the tie. Now, as long as they don't play more than 4 cards. If they play more than 4 cards somehow, then we're gonna lose in Hellfire Club. Otherwise, I think this is a pretty funny way to go out, because I don't see a way that we can win. I can just see a way that we can force a tie. And so they are going to destroy the resources that they dropped. They played 2 cards. I don't think we were going to be able to overcome them in either of the lanes. So sometimes you're just pushing for the stalemate. We will take that, and let's go ahead and jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Tunberries, and the first location is Baxter Building. And we have in our opening hand, we have our Black Widow, our Maximus, our Shang-Chi to deal with any kind of big plays, an Arrow to misdirect them away from Baxter Building most likely. And that would be on a turn 6 because of Dream Dimension. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to play our Black Widow here. We're going to push it out onto the board a little bit early. We're going to invest our lower powered cards into mid and hope that they kind of follow suit here. And then we can always shift some of that power over if we draw into our Heimdal. Heimdal is always at the back of our mind as a potential playline. And actually, Shuri's Lab is huge for Heimdal, because we're going to be able to double up on the power and then shift it over into the Dream Dimension. And so we can do a Maximus, which does let them draw into, depending on how many cards they play here. If they don't play anything, then they don't draw anything extra. If they play 1 card, they draw 1 extra. If they play 2 or more cards, then they will draw 2 extra cards. And so they do play 2. So unfortunately, we are going to give them some resources in return. The Juggernaut actually helps us out here. It pushes us from Shuri's Lab over into Baxter Building, and we had initiative, so we get the double up before that comes down. I imagine with just seeing the Juggernaut that they are running a Silver Surfer deck. And so we're going to go ahead and lean into the Rock. I don't necessarily think we'll get anything great from White Queen. So we're going to lean into the Disruption, the hidden value from Rock Slide by sending them the 2 rocks in as Disruption. It will double down on that power, and then we will be able to shift it after this turn. So it is Kraken Knoll's movement Surfer deck with the Juggernaut, with the Iron Fist, the Vulture. So I think we're going to make the hard decision. I think we are going to play Shang-Chi into the Dream Dimension. just in case they have a Doctor Strange, in case they have a Silver Surfer. This is already 16 power, which is massive. We need to be able to overcome this, and then even if they have a Brood, we should be able to meet the maximum of the Brood, because Brood is going to be at max 15 power alone if it's that plus Silver Surfer on the last turn. And so I think we're okay. We're going to go ahead and snap into this before they know that we killed their Vulture, and then we will look to see what our last turn play is. Is it an arrow to misdirect their cards over into Shuri's Lab because we have the win in the Dream Dimension and Baxter Building? Is it a Cosmo to try to counter their last turn play? And then their own Shang-Chi comes down, and I was not anticipating their own Shang-Chi play. Oh man. So now this gets a little more difficult. We can do the Heimdal shift. That is going to give us 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 power in the Baxter Building. If they have Brood plus Silver Surfer and they play them both into the Baxter Building, then they will be able to outpower us there. It's either that or we try to anticipate where they're going to drop Silver Surfer if that's what they have. I kind of wish we would have dropped White Queen now, because the Shang-Chi did throw me off. I don't think Kraken's movement deck runs the Shang-Chi play. We're going to gamble here. We're going to play the Heimdal. We're going to shift our cards over. It gives us a really good push in the Dream Dimension. Because of the Rock Slide, I'm not really worried about that location. I'm worried about Baxter Building. But they do end up retreating, I guess, after we took out their Vulture. I'm guessing they didn't have enough of a power push. We took the 2 cubes. We were going to schmoove it over to the left to find the win, but they retreated before we found it. Let's try to get at least one trigger of a Doc Ock or a Heimdal, because that's what this deck is centered around. We will take the 2 cubes. Let's jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have K-Job. The first location is Sakaar. It pulls into our White Queen and gives us an Infinite. So we know right off the bat between that and the fact that they very luckily pulled into their Zabu, beautiful pull, that they're running a Zabu, Dracula, Ghost Rider, Resummon type of deck. And we can anticipate that standard kind of play line, the Crossbones, the Jubilee play. I'm surprised they didn't snap after pulling into Zabu on turn 1. If it is the kind of greedier version that runs a Moon Girl, then they are sitting in a very, very good spot here. We're going to go ahead and play our Black Widow onto the board into Titan. And then we're kind of looking to see what kind of play line we need or can do. So there comes the Dracula into the last location, which does turn out to be the Collapsed Mine. So we're really not going to be able to compete for that location anyways, I don't think. But what we can do, we can play Maximus on 3. We can skip on 4. Because of Titan, we'll be able to naturally play Infinite on 5. And then as long as we have initiative, we can schmoove him over with Heimdal to get away from any kind of Shang-Chi counterplays that we could anticipate. And it looks like they may be going with a similar play line. White Queen gave us the Infinite, so we know that they have it as well. We do draw into our Shang-Chi if we do need to end up playing that on the last turn instead of the Heimdal. But I like the Heimdal idea better. We are both going to skip here. I'm going to drop our Infinite into the Collapsed Mine lane, and then we can look for how to win from there. Because if we need to shift our Infinite over, that's going to be a great Titan location. So we could honestly even do something like our Heimdal in Sakaar plus Titania into Titan. Thinking through their mind frame here, they can play 3 2-cost cards. If I am them, I am pretty secure in my Titan location. I don't think I'm going to play there. I'm going to invest in trying to destroy or push more power into the Collapsed Mine, whether that be with a Shang-Chi or some kind of counter card. And then I'm also going to invest into Sakaar. I'm going to try to spread my power out because 20 is massive. That is a huge commitment that we're going to have to invest into. And so I don't think they're going to play into Titan. So I think Titania should be fine and should give us that tiebreaker between the Infinite play line with her 5 power boost. It is a read. It is a read that we're going to go with. And they do double down in the Collapsed Mine. They play 1 card into Sakaar. If it's a Shang-Chi over there for some reason, it is not going to work. The Enchantress, and then is it the Shang-Chi? The Shang-Chi playline in the Collapsed Mine. The Jubilee pool is not going to be enough. Even if it was a Magneto or something really, really massive, it was not going to be enough. I do wish we would have snapped into that one because we had it set up where the Heimdal was the winning condition. And that is very, very hard to see because Heimdal is such a inconsistent card for the most part. Whenever you run up against a deck that has it, it is very hard to identify. But we read their last turn play like a book, and it allowed us to find our win condition. we will take that. Let's go ahead and take the 2 cubes, jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Tremelos, and the first location is the Onslaught Citadel. We don't have any ongoing cards that are going to benefit from that location, and we actually just faced them. We beat them on turn 5 with a Doc Ock pull. They ended up retreating on 6, but it wasn't eventful. It wasn't really entertaining, so we did opt to skip it. And so we have the Black Widow here. We're going to disrupt their draw a little bit. Depending on what this last location is, if it's the Collapse Mine, we're actually stuck with these rocks now. And so in their deck, they did have a Spider-Man. A Heimdal Shift is not going to be great for us in this scenario. I do kind of want to stick it out and play it out. We have the Maximus. That's going to be a pretty decent push. It is going to allow them to draw into some additional resources, though. We can then play our Rock Slide. We could try to lean in on turn 5 with an arrow or with an arrow. We know that they have a potential Spider-Man. So if they play that into the Strange Academy lane, we're not going to be able to compete for it. And so if here we can get initiative somehow by some grace, by some mercy, we can pull their cards over with arrow and try to force a Spider-Man that they played over into the Onslaught Citadel so we can compete heads up in the Strange Academy. I think we lose this one. I don't think we have a shot here. They do double down with Moon Girl. All of their 4-cost cards cost 1. All of their other cards are reduced with the Quinjet, so they have at least the Devil Dino here. Oy. If we pull with arrow, this is going to get capped out. I think we try to pull over into Strange Academy with arrow. If they're going with a Spider-Man, then we lose. But if we pull a Devil Dino over, then we lose here as well. I think they're going to lean into the Spider-Man play. We're going to do arrow. We're going to pull, hopefully, a Spider-Man over into the Onslaught Citadel. We won't have initiative, or we will have initiative. Ooh, so we pull 1 card over. They play 2. They play the Spider-Man in the Onslaught Citadel, and it's the double Spider-Man. So we do win the Onslaught Citadel. They keep initiative here. And so if they play their Devil Dino, our Shang-Chi is going to be able to swing that advantage in our favor. The Heimdal, because the locked-in rocks, is not going to be beneficial, but we can do the Shang-Chi and then the Titania. So what I'm hoping for is that they do a really big greedy play. Now they might just do a mid-roll. They may do a White Queen. They may do a Rock Slide. So we have 2 options. We could do the Shang-Chi and Titania. That would take care of a Devil Dino play. Or we could do a Devil Dino and a Titania. That is going to be 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11. That is going to be 16 power that we would push into the Strange Academy lane. And so then it would potentially come down to a tiebreaker, and we win Onslaught Citadel by much more than they win the Collapse Mine. Do they get greedy here? I don't know. We're going to go with the Devil Dino and Titania. I think Shang-Chi might be the play. Oh, it is. It is absolutely the play. But we still outpower just the Devil Dino play with the Titania kind of kicker or topper. And so even though they got the upside in the Collapse Mine and they just absolutely locked us down, we were still able to find our win by playing it patiently, by having a very strategic and kind of lucky arrow play. We will take those. We will absolutely take those. Not a Heimdal Shift, not a Doc Ock play, but a very satisfying win after we just outright lost the Collapse Mine. And with that 4-cube victory, we are going to go ahead and end the video here. That one was a little bit too close for comfort. Not quite as close as yesterday's finisher. So if you haven't seen yesterday's Dazzler video, it will be linked here in just a second. Definitely check it out. But I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave it a like and a comment. As always, this has been TLSG. Later, guys.